Hey, what's up, guys? This is Carson, and welcome to the final episode of the No Set of Mind Breaking Down series. I just want to say thank you guys for sticking with me on these, watching these if you've watched all of them. Um, I've had fun doing it. Been a little bit stressful at times in between school and projects putting these together. However, I've enjoyed it. Um, I would love to do more of these for future projects. If you guys want stuff like this, this kind of style of breaking down videos, let me know, and I'll do it for future projects, which I have quite a few of those coming up. Um, and I'm excited for those. Those are gonna be cool. Some of them are not straight up horror stuff, so that's gonna be really cool. Not that I don't like horror, but I mean, I'm ready to do some new stuff. I'm ready to experiment. But I am here. We're gonna be talking about the sound design. Um, and I question myself, what does that mean for me to do a sound design video? Because there's so much that goes into this stuff. And the best way that I have thought to do this kind of a video is I'm going to talk about the sounds that I made that I personally still think to this day are really cool sounds that I made, that aren't just kind of really cool sound design stuff, but not as I guess not as cool. So this is all the stuff that I still personally think is really cool sound design wise. Um, and it's gonna be a couple different songs that I'm gonna kind of talk about the sounds. And so um, yeah, that's kind of the way that I felt would be the best way to do this kind of a video for sound design, because otherwise there would be no end to it. There's so much that goes into these songs and everything. So we're just gonna hit the really cool highlights of the score. So let's get into it. So to this first little bit that we're gonna look at, first of all, as you can see, I am on FL Studio. It's because I'm going into the actual project files that aren't the final mixing and the final masters, because all the final mixing and masters are in this computer over here. This is all like my actual sitting down and composing the music stuff. And so that's what this is. As you can see, there's a lot of audio forms in this. It's because this was not the first song that I started, so I just had some of the stuff that I've already made put over into this, and so you can kind of see that. However, I thought that I would open with the music box thing sound that I made, um, that is almost in everything in this project. So that's that. Uh, and then that is right here. Let me open it up. It is Mirage. It is a free plugin. It has a bunch of music boxes and stuff, and it's really nice. And I don't remember exactly what I did here. I know that I did a little bit of messing around in the plugin itself, but then I also went over here, and as you can see, right here, I did a whole bunch of processing on it. And so Galactic, that's a reverb. I got a chorus on it. I got more reverb on it. I got a distortion, got a compressor very early on in all this. I got another distortion, and I got a fruity delay, which is really helping it feel a little bit more full and stereo. And so let me really fast just take all of what I did off of the sound. Let's listen to it without all the processing. Maybe if I remember to unmute stuff. Still creepy, however, overdone. Again, like as I said before, Music Box is so overdone in horror stuff. So, I mean, it's cool, but I mean, it's not really unique. But with all my processing, it sounds a lot cooler, a lot more genuine. And that is what is going on with that. And that's, again, in almost all the songs, is that music box sound. And then throughout this song here, it's just, there's this static sound. I can't quite remember how I got this static sound, but this is a really cool static sound that, as I said in previous episodes, there's TVs in the game, so I have some static stuff because TV is static, and so some really cool sounds. I don't remember how I made these sounds for the static, but there's some stuff going on with this as well, some reverb, a little bit of EQ stuff. As you can see, it's ducking quite a bit. And then I kind of thin it out a little bit so it just sits on top, because I don't need it to have any low end, because there's so much already. It doesn't need any more low end, so I thinned it out. So it's just this nice layer on top of everything. But yeah, that's kind of the thinking with the music box. And I really like how it turned out, this music box sound. And on this song, this is track 2, I believe. But the sound design thing I'm going to go over in this one is something that's also in track 4, Hide Now. So it's in, both of these tracks. As you can tell, there is the staticky stuff again. There's a drone. So nothing too crazy going on for this. This is one of those cutscene songs. As you can see, not a whole lot going on. But it just feels really full, and that's why it feels like there's more going on than there really is. But at the end, this is a sound that I made for this project that I really, really enjoy. I don't remember which all effects do things, so I'm just going to turn them all on. It's been at least a year since I've looked at this. But this sound effect, you hear it in a couple different songs in the soundtrack, but this is a really cool sound riser that I made. And I really like how that sounds, and I actually think that, yeah, I turned all the effects off already for some reason. Let me turn them back on and play it again. Sorry for that. So in the actual song, it's a little bit more full, a little bit louder and stuff. However, this is just a string sound. If you couldn't tell, that's all this is. It's just a string sound holding that note. And then same for this. This is the same thing, only it's with the effects and everything, and I pitched it down. But this came from the same thing. It's just 34 pitch down. So it's the same sound, but it's the same thing. But yeah, this is the initial thing, the initial note, and then I have all this processing on it here. There is a master desk, which is doing some stereo stuff. You got Destructor, which is a really nice plugin that comes with FL. You got Free Delay. I reduced the sample rate, which is, if you have not messed with sample rate stuff and delays and you have FL Studio, open up Fruity Delay 3 and mess with it. That's really cool. Some reverb, of course, and I got a EQ doing some stuff. And so if you turn all this on, it does some really cool stuff to the sound. And I'll play it here with the different automations I got going on for the sound, and you can hear just the high-pitched one. I'm not going to play the lower-pitched one for this right now. So whenever you mix that with the lower-pitched thing, some really cool stuff. And then this is the same thing, only it's pitched down even further, and it does a little bit more pitch shifting. But yeah, that's that riser sound, and it's in quite a bit of the songs, as I said. It's a really cool sound. I really enjoy how that one works with everything else. It's pretty cool. So really briefly, I wanted to go over this. This, as you can see, is hardly anything. This eventually turned into track 5. This right here. This eventually turned into track 5, but this is the very bare bones start that I was doing. And I used a fair amount of white noise in this soundtrack. You'll be able to tell here whenever I explain stuff for some sound design stuff. In Hide Now, there's some sound design for white noise. So there's quite a bit of white noise in this that I use for sound design. I mean, here we've just got some drums that I named Angry Drums. Angry Carson, which is a drum that I made myself, some impacts. And then you got this right here, which is just 2 different white noises. Technically, they're hi-hats, but the way that I made them sound, they sound like white noise without any processing. Apologies. And you can hear a little bit of time stretch going on because I time stretched them. But they're originally hi-hats turning into white noise. Some DS, reverb, stuff like that. But, however, so there is a lot of white noise, as I mentioned. This sound here, you hear throughout a lot of the soundtrack. It's that original white noise thing right there, but pitched 24 semitones down. And you hear this a lot. I mean, you hear, I think, the boss fight. You hear it, and Here He Comes. There's a couple different songs that this appears in, but the idea behind this was, first of all, just cool sound design, and also since the boy is a boy and everything, and as I talked about in a previous episode, there's the youthful innocence kind of thing. Whenever I imagine youthful innocence and everything, like part of what comes into my mind is like trains, because I know that like it's a stereotype for guys, especially younger guys, to like trains and stuff, right? Not so much these days anymore, but it definitely was kind of a stereotype. And so I tried to, of course, have that in the emotional stuff, but I felt like it needed to implement its way into the horror sound design aspect in some way, even if it's not super noticeable that I'm trying to go for like a train sound. But I essentially just tried to make a somewhat similar sound to a train sound, like a train chugging, but a little bit cooler. You hear this a lot on the soundtrack, and that's all it is. It's just this with a little bit of delay, pitch down. That's all it is, and it's in a lot of the soundtrack, and I think it sounds really cool. And I just wanted to bring that up really fast in this video. This here is fun. This is nothing. This was not in the soundtrack at all. But I thought it'd be fun to really fast show you guys this. So this was me attempting to make some weird sound design stuff, just randomly for this game. And I thought I would try to do something with farts, as you can see, which did not end up being in the actual soundtrack. But this was just some goofy kind of stuff I was messing with. Nothing really became of it. Obviously, you'll be able to tell that it's just not coherent, but it's kind of funny. It could have been cool if I actually wanted to do something with it, but I didn't really mess with it. But that's just like a fun little fact that I tried to add farts to the No Son of Mine soundtrack, and it just didn't make it in, sadly. I know we're all bummed out. It's okay, guys. Don't worry. It'll be in the next one. So for this one, this is track 7. This is Looming Darkness, which, if you've listened to the soundtrack, it's not incredibly musical. It's very sound heavy. The inspiration for this was Batman v Superman. I think in Batman v Superman, it's also track 5. I think it's called Must There Be a Superman. There's some kind of stuff similar to this and that's my inspiration for that. Kind of like how earlier, whenever I showed you guys that riser sound, that was inspired by Mick Gordon and Wolfenstein, the first Wolfenstein that he did. Kind of a little bit of that. So there's a little bit of inspiration from them sound design wise. Mick Gordon with that, and then Junkie XL and Hans Zimmer with Batman v Superman for this. But this is track 5. This plays whenever, again, slight spoilers here. Whenever you go into the boy's house, this plays, and it's just supposed to sound disorienting and evil. That's really the point of this. Is just disorienting and everything. There's some weird different sounds here, which is just like these sounds right here that I'm about to play are just whenever sometimes in FL Studio, whenever I export something, it doesn't export it right, and it'll make weird sounds for no reason, and it'll export that instead of what I wanted it to export, and it'll be really kind of gross sounding sometimes. And so that's what all this is just my FL Studio being weird, exporting sounds weirdly, me liking those sounds and using them. That's really all it is. Just weird, broken sounds. But it's all pitched around. Like this one is regular pitch. This one is pitched down. I think it goes back to the regular. And so that's all this is. So just weird sounds there. This is this vocal stuff that is in this one is very inspired by some of the stuff Hans Zimmer did on Dune and that vocal stuff, combined with Half-Life, the vocals that you hear in Half-Life whenever the troopers are talking, somewhat similar sounding to that, in my opinion. These vocals are actually in the neighborhood watches as well. In this back half of the song, it's just me whispering. But this is obviously processed very different from how those sound. Because this, let me turn all this off. This is what it normally sounds like. Some weird slight ASMR sounds there. And it's reversed and everything. And it's just me making weird sounds. Not really anything that I'm saying. It's just me making weird sounds. I mean, I'm not chanting anything. But yeah, it's that. Pitch down 12 semitones. I got all the effects on it, and it sounds like this. So that's what that is. And this sound here is one that I wanted to address. So the sad thing about this one is I looked and I could not find the original thing that I did for it. I can't find the original note with the original processing that I had on it. Knowing me, I probably used some Destructor and some Fruity Squeeze and compression on this sound. But I can't actually find it for whatever reason. However, I do know that this is a bass guitar. If you listen to the impact, right, you don't notice it whenever you're listening to the soundtrack. But whenever you solo this by itself, this hit by itself, this hit is in a lot of the songs because it's really cool and it's really nice sounding. If you listen to it on its own, you can tell by the tail that it was a bass guitar. Right there. So it was a bass guitar with some distortion stuff going on at the front. Again, I don't know why I can't find it. But that's all that is a bass guitar really hitting it hard, and then a lot of distortion stuff at the start, and then it tails off because it's just supposed to be a hit. It's not supposed to hold super long. So just some really cool sound design stuff there. And finally, I thought I would cover the final boss song a little bit. And as you can tell, there's a lot more going on this one than others. This song was probably one of the last things I did for the soundtrack because, I mean, most of the soundtrack, there's a lot of intense stuff going on, but there's not really one with a whole lot of percussion in it until this one. So this was something that I held off till the very last moment. But this one was really fun. A lot of the soundtrack, if you've noticed, there's chords, but whenever there's chords in the actual horror stuff, I'm not talking about the emotional stuff. I'm talking about the actual horror ambient stuff, all that kind of thing. There's not a whole lot of chords, and if there are, then it doesn't feel like it. Like for example, I want to say the school and Neighborhood Watch is there's some really low pitched string chords going on, but it doesn't really feel like it. And most of this soundtrack is very drony, but it doesn't feel like it. Well, one of the tracks feels very drony, but a lot of this soundtrack is very drony, and you can't really tell that it feels drony. At least I hope that you can't. But there's not a whole lot of really drastic chord changes, right? Um, which is part of the horror aspect, is that there's not a whole bunch of chord changes, in my opinion, for this. But in this one, there is. There's some really nice chord changes here, which really opens up this song later on. I'm just going to jump into the strings really fast. So cool. I love those. Oh, I love the chords for this. But yeah, so um, the point of me talking about that first is um, boss fight songs. I feel like need to be the one of the most memorable, if not the most memorable song in the entire score. Um, for games like this, for Elden Ring, for example, like Souls-like games where half the game is boss fights, those still need to be good. However, like for horror games, whenever there's only like one or two, it needs to really stand out, in my opinion. So having this open up with chord changes and really feel nice and full um, was really important to me. Um, and so there's that. There's some really cool hits going on, some 808s hits and everything, kind of as I've said in past episodes. The bass guitar, there's an 808, and there is the string bass BBC Symphony Orchestra hit, just all layered up. You got here, you have, it's the original melody of the soundtrack, but I dropped it into a plugin called Edison, and I blurred it. So basically, it takes the melody and it just kind of adds. It doesn't really add reverb, but it just like kind of smooths it all out. So you can't really tell that notes are playing, but the notes still change. So it goes from the original melody to just this huge like ambient sound. It just blurs the entire sound. And you can kind of tell that. And then I got some cool percussion stuff going on. This is that angry Carson drum thing that I made for this, doing some cool delay stuff. And then you can hear there's a little bit of like a kind of a sample rate sweep. And there's the train sound. Just to really push it along. And then the train sound again, pitched up. Some really cool sounds there, and then this comes in eventually. Which this is just Subdivine, which I used quite a bit for this. A lot of processing on it. So as you can tell there, that is just straight up an 808. But with what I did to it, it turns it more into a synth than an 808, but it still sounds really cool. And then you got the melody that comes in, a variation of the main theme. And so that's really cool. And then there's the toms that come in, which are really cool sounding. And then I'm gonna be honest, I was going to attempt to just play the tom solo for you guys for this episode. However, time negated that. I'm very busy, and I got even more busy over the last couple of days. So I will just play it for you. This here is the tom solo, which, if you haven't noticed, I love toms. Um, and as I've said in other episodes, it's funny I have to keep saying this. Dark Fracture, whenever it does come out, you'll notice that as well. I love toms. Um, uh, I love toms, and there's not a tom solo in that other song I was just referencing, but in this for this soundtrack there is a tom solo. Um, I don't know. I was just feeling it. That's really all the explanation I have is I was feeling a tom solo. So there's that, and then I eventually in Cubase layered me playing that with this sampled library. So it's a combination of me and the actual this here. But obviously, since I am in FL Studio, which doesn't have the final mix and master, it's just what I originally came up with here. So that's kind of what's going on with the drums in this song. Is that there's the percussive chugging sound, and then there's the cool, um, uh, weird delayed Carson angry drum thing going on, which is pretty cool. And that about wraps it up for me on this soundtrack for all the cool sound design stuff. I hit pretty much everything that I wanted to hit for sound design. Um, Again, sound design is super fun to me, and it's one of the cooler parts of music composition, in my opinion. It's one of the reasons why I like doing more electronic scores as opposed to, sitting down and writing for an orchestra or a band. It's just more fun for me personally. I find more enjoyment out of sound design than sitting down and, thinking of clever ways to, you know, have one section mimic another and bounce off stuff. I just find this more interesting. So I love me my sound design, as I said. Um, and I appreciate you guys sitting down and watching this video. I if you're curious about any of what I've just talked about, leave any questions in the comments. Any of you producers that might have any more nerdy sound design type questions, definitely let me know. I'm just trying to get the general idea across here. So if there's anything that you guys want to talk about, um, leave a comment. I would be more than happy to talk to you guys about stuff and explain things if you need it um, for this. But that wraps up the series for the breaking down No Son of Mine behind the music stuff. Um, if you guys did not see, it's out now on Xbox Series S and X. So it's been ported to everything. It's on Series X and S now, PS5, the Switch, and PC. So the game is out pretty much everywhere now. It's on sale on Xbox right now. Ooh, sorry, Mike. It's on Xbox right now for $11.99. So it's on sale. Go ahead and go buy it if you haven't. I hope you guys enjoy the soundtrack while playing the game, and I hope you guys enjoy the game. It's pretty fun. I enjoy playing it. I have almost 100%ed it on Xbox, but it'll take me a little bit longer because, some of it can be pretty challenging. So, I really hope you guys enjoy it, and I really had fun working on this whole project. I just wanted to really fast say, thank you to the developer, obviously. He's a really cool guy. I won't keep talking about this for too much longer, but honestly, none of the other developers that I've worked with have stuck with me since the project. I think everyone ends up hating me by the end of it. But he stuck with me. He's a really cool guy. You can hopefully expect more stuff from me and him in the future. So thank you for supporting me, letting me work on your game, stuff like that. Because I know that you'll probably end up watching this episode. So there's that. And also thank you to my friend Patrick Harkin. If you guys have noticed the soundtrack, he's in the description for mixing and mastering. He helped me on a couple of these. He didn't help on all the mixing and mastering, but he helped me on a few of them. And I owe a lot of my mastering skills and abilities that I've learned over the years to him, because he's been a great help with that on previous projects, and just watching him and learning from him has really helped me learn how to master stuff, because that was something I struggled with for a while. So thank you to Patrick. He is a very good friend of mine, very, very talented. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys for sitting here and watching this. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this, that you guys maybe learned something. And I look forward to, talking to you guys in the future, whenever that may be, for the next video. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. So thank you guys for sticking through this, and I'll see you later.